My name is Samantha. I'm 39 years old, and I spent the last 8 years at Eastbridge Tech building something I was proud of. Loyalty, performance, leadership. Check, check, and check. Every quarter, I beat my KPIs. Every crisis, I volunteered to lead the recovery. I even trained half the managers they have now. But on a rainy Thursday afternoon, all of that became irrelevant in 5 words. Congratulations to my niece, Lisa. I blinked, not sure I heard right. The conference room erupted in polite claps, but my ears were ringing. Lisa smiled like she'd just discovered gravity. She stood up, flashing a too-bright grin, and waved modestly as if she hadn't just skipped over an entire career ladder in 4 months. Lisa will be our new director of strategic operations, my boss, Alan, said. She brings fresh perspective and energy, and I'm confident she'll help us grow. Fresh perspective. That's what they always say when they promote someone young, green, and deeply connected to someone in power. Lisa was Alan's sister's daughter. Everyone knew. No one talked about it. I sat frozen, still holding the presentation clicker from the quarterly review I had just delivered. The one where I'd outlined a strategy that saved the company $1.2 million in supply costs. The same review that Alan had praised, right before handing my job to his niece. Alan smiled at me. Samantha, can you help Lisa transition into the role? You've been instrumental in getting our operations to where they are. Instrumental, like a wrench or a cog, something useful, replaceable. I nodded slowly, forced a smile. Of course, happy to help. But inside, something broke. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. 8 years ago, I'd started here after a painful divorce. My ex-husband had taken half our assets and all of my confidence. I had to rebuild from the ground up. Eastbridge was supposed to be that ground. I worked overtime, stayed late, gave up vacations. I brought my daughter to the office on weekends when I couldn't find childcare. I was the dependable one. The fixer, the one who made things work when others panicked. When COVID hit, I was the one who designed the remote logistics protocol that kept our entire supply chain afloat. No bonuses that year, but Alan gave me a thank you card. It was handwritten. Said I was management material. Funny how management material just meant someone you could lean on without promoting. Lisa had joined the company 4 months ago, straight out of grad school. She was bright, no doubt. But she'd never led a team, negotiated a vendor contract, or handled a 2 a.m. crisis when a shipment got delayed in customs. I watched her thank the team, say how humbled and honored she was. She even said she hoped to learn from everyone. As if she wasn't just handed the position I'd worked nearly a decade for. After the meeting, I went back to my desk, closed the door, and sat down in silence. The office around me buzzed as usual. Phones ringing, emails pinging, but I couldn't hear it. I stared at my laptop, blinking back the heat in my eyes. Then I opened a blank document and began typing. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't emotional. It was a letter. Short, direct, professional. Subject, resignation notice. Effective in 2 weeks, I outlined my reasons, thanked the company for the experience, and offered to help with the transition. I added one final sentence at the end, one that made me smile for real this time. Good luck to Lisa. I printed it, folded it, and slipped it into an envelope. It took me 30 minutes to pack my desk. I left most things, binders, notebooks, internal guides I'd created. I wasn't taking anything except my dignity. As I walked toward Alan's office, the letter in my hand, I could already feel the air shifting around me. He was standing, talking to someone in the hallway. I waited. When he noticed me, he smiled like nothing had happened. Samantha, great work on the review today. I handed him the envelope. What's this? He asked. My 2 weeks. He laughed, assuming I was joking. Then he opened it. His expression changed. You can't do this, he said, voice tightening. We need you right now. You have Lisa now, I replied, calm as ice. I'm sure she'll figure it out. That's when he raised his voice. Samantha, don't be rash. this isn't professional. You're reacting emotionally. Think about your daughter. Think about your career. I met his eyes. I am thinking about both. And then I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. But I knew, even before I reached my car, that this was just the beginning. The Monday after I submitted my resignation, I arrived at the office at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes earlier than usual. Not because I had something to prove, but because I wanted my last 2 weeks to be clean, controlled, and on my terms. Lisa was already at her new desk, my old desk, if we're being honest, hovering awkwardly in front of 3 monitors and a tangled mess of documents. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Samantha, I was hoping you'd come in early," she said, clearly relieved. "I need a little help understanding the Q2 vendor reconciliation report." I nodded. "Sure, let's go over it." I pulled up the supply dashboard I had built from scratch over 5 years. It linked active orders, pricing tiers, delivery schedules, and incident reports across 12 vendors in real time. Lisa blinked at the interface like she was looking at ancient runes. How did you set this up?" she asked. "Just experience," I said gently. We spent the next hour reviewing critical accounts, Westbrook Machinery, Haldron Metal, and Copper Splice components. These 3 alone made up over 40% of our monthly revenue. Each had unique contract terms, delivery deadlines, and quirks only learned through time and crisis. I gave her a printed copy of the client protocols I had created and kept updated like a Bible. Lisa looked overwhelmed. "I didn't realize it was this intricate," she admitted. "That's what operations is," I said. "It looks like spreadsheets, but it's really relationships, timing, and knowing what can go wrong before it does." Alan walked by mid-conversation, stopped at the glass door, and tapped once before entering. "Morning, ladies," he said, too cheerfully. "How's the handover going?" Lisa gave him a small, unsure smile. "Samantha's been amazing. There's just so much, more than I expected." Alan gave me a quick glance as if trying to read my expression. "Well, you're in good hands. Samantha's been our backbone. That's why I'm glad she's staying through the transition." I didn't respond. The silence hung for a beat too long, so he shifted his tone. "I was thinking we could all meet later today to go over the upcoming Q3 rollout. Sound good?" Lisa nodded quickly. I just said, "Let me know what time." After he left, Lisa turned back to me. "He said you'd created most of these processes, but I didn't realize how dependent everything was on your work." I didn't say anything. She was right, and she was beginning to realize it. That afternoon at 3 p.m., we met in the small strategy room to discuss the Q3 rollout. The room had a whiteboard, a speakerphone, and a mild coffee stain smell that never left. Alan kicked off the meeting. "So Lisa, walk us through your proposed updates to the rollout timeline." Lisa stood, clearly nervous but trying to mask it. She began explaining that she wanted to streamline some of our vendor communications by consolidating touchpoints and automating reporting using a new SaaS platform her business school cohort had recommended. I listened. To her credit, Lisa had ideas, but none of them accounted for the real-world chaos of industrial manufacturing. Last-minute production delays, customs holdups, weather disruptions. The vendors we worked with didn't always respond well to automation or new platforms. Some still used fax machines. Alan nodded through her presentation. "Fresh thinking, that's exactly what we need." He looked at me. "Samantha, thoughts?" I kept my tone neutral. Some of the tools she's proposing could be helpful in theory, but our current vendors are extremely sensitive to change. A rollout like this would require 6 months of pilot testing and face-to-face training. Alan's expression tightened. "Resistance to innovation is exactly what keeps us stuck." I raised an eyebrow. "Is it resistance or reality?" Lisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Alan tapped his pen on the table and said nothing. After the meeting, I returned to my desk and found a voicemail from one of our biggest clients, Westbrook Machinery. "Samantha, it's Tom," the voice said. "Not sure who to talk to about the delayed shipment to San Antonio. We've got a crew on standby. Can you call me back? It had begun. I forwarded the message to Lisa, copied Alan, and followed up with a short note. This is the type of issue that requires immediate escalation to Tucson Freight. Recommend calling Dave directly. His number's in the supplier folder. An hour later, I passed Lisa's desk. She was still typing up an email. Did you call Dave from Tucson? I asked gently. No, I emailed him instead. I figured I'd give him time to respond, she said. I paused. Dave's 67. He doesn't check his email after 3 p.m., and San Antonio is a rush delivery. You'll want to call him now. Lisa's face turned pale. She picked up the phone. I kept walking. That evening, I sat on my couch, glass of wine in hand, laptop open. My daughter, Olivia, peeked in from the hallway. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Just a long day. You look tired, she said. But kind of proud too? I smiled. I handed over the job they thought I couldn't walk away from, I said. And they're already realizing I wasn't just filling a chair. She walked over and sat beside me. I'm proud of you too, she said. They'll see what they lost, and you'll build something better. By Thursday morning, things had already begun to wobble. I walked into the office to find Lisa staring at the printer like it had personally insulted her. She looked up with a sheepish smile. The shipment logs won't print correctly. They're formatted weird. I took a look and instantly saw the problem. She was pulling the logs from the internal summary, not the master file. A rookie mistake. One I might have made in my first month. Not in my fourth. I fixed it, briefly explained the difference between the two files, and went to my desk. Minutes later, I received a message from Copper Splice Components, subject line, Urgent Invoice Discrepancy. They were one of our most detail-sensitive accounts. Any variation, even if it was $10 off, meant immediate flags. The email read, We were quoted a 6.7% discount on the Tucson batch order last month, but the new invoice shows full pricing. Please clarify within the next 4 hours, or we'll suspend this PO until resolved. I checked the logs. The discount had been agreed verbally and logged in a note in the CRM under my username. Lisa hadn't included it in the export file she used to issue the invoice. I sighed. This wasn't sabotage. It was inexperience. But to a client, it didn't matter. Their trust in us was built on seamless execution, not excuses. I walked over to Lisa's desk. Did you send the Copper Splice invoice? I asked. She nodded. Why? They're pausing the PO. You missed the negotiated discount. She blinked. Wait, Alan said I should go by the standard pricing sheet. And I told Copper Splice we'd adjust this one due to the freight delays last quarter. It's in the CRM notes. Lisa looked genuinely panicked. Should I call them? You have to. And apologize. And fix the invoice before 10 o'clock. She glanced at the clock. 9:17. I'll help you, I added, because I couldn't help myself. I didn't want her to fail. Not really. I just wanted someone to understand that I hadn't failed. Later that afternoon, Alan called me into his office. He looked tired, eyes sunken, shirt wrinkled. A man used to control, now juggling broken glass. I heard about Copper Splice, he said without looking at me. Lisa said you helped resolve it. I did, I replied. But it's going to keep happening. He looked up sharply. Why would you say that? Because you gave her a role she's not ready for, I said evenly. And you're asking her to lead a system she doesn't understand. Alan leaned back and exhaled. Samantha, look, I know you're frustrated. I know you feel overlooked. But this kind of attitude won't help your reputation in the industry. I almost laughed. Reputation. As if it hadn't taken me years to build it. As if I hadn't earned it. Email by email. Crisis by crisis. I've been nothing but professional, Alan, I said. You wanted a clean transition, and I've made sure you have one. He didn't answer. just stared at his desk, like maybe it would give him a solution. By the following week, the pressure had started leaking outside the building. Westbrook Machinery emailed their account manager, me, asking why no one had followed up on their last 4 queries. I forwarded it to Lisa. She responded with a working on it auto template. They replied, "We need a person, not a placeholder." Then came the voicemail from Haldren Metal's COO. "Samantha, we've had 3 rescheduling requests from your replacement, and it's causing issues on our production end. Please let us know who's in charge now, because honestly, it doesn't feel like anyone is." That night, I was at home when my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Is this Samantha Nolan?" a voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name's Miguel Alvarez. I'm the Director of Operations at Argon Works Supply. We've heard you're finishing up at Eastbridge. Would you be open to a conversation?" I sat up straighter. "How did you hear that?" "Word travels," he said, "especially when key clients start asking where their person went." He continued, "We've been following your work for a while. Copper Splice, Westbrook, even Morrison. Everyone speaks highly of you. We're expanding our Southwest footprint, and frankly, we need someone like you." Miguel added, "We're offering a director-level position, better pay, full authority, and you can bring your client relationships, if they choose to follow." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not fear, not pride, relief. For 8 years, I had carried a department on my back, and only now was someone finally seeing it. "I'd be happy to set up a meeting," I said. "Great," he replied. "I'll have my assistant reach out in the morning." The next day, I walked into Eastbridge feeling different, like I was already gone. As I passed Lisa's office, I noticed she was reprinting another client schedule. The timestamp showed it had already been sent out. Wrong version. Again. She looked up and smiled nervously. "I'll figure it out." I nodded. "I know you will." By the time my final Monday at Eastbridge rolled around, something in the air had shifted. The office didn't hum with its usual rhythm. It sputtered. Emails were delayed. Clients were agitated. People were whispering more than talking. Everyone could feel it. The seams were starting to split. That morning, I had a second phone call with Miguel Alvarez from Argon Works, who now sounded even more eager than before. "We'd like to formally offer you the role," he said. "Director of Regional Operations. Your call on team structure, vendors, hiring, full autonomy." "And the accounts I've been managing?" I asked. Miguel chuckled. "If even half of them follow you, it would more than pay for your first year's salary." I paused, then asked the one thing still lingering in the back of my mind. "Would you want me to bring anyone else from Eastbridge?" "Only if they're good," he said simply. That call ended with a verbal agreement and a pending contract. My future was changing. Quietly, cleanly, like turning the page of a book mid-sentence. At 10:42 a.m., Alan called me into his office. His voice over the intercom was tight, strained. "Samantha, could you step in for a moment?" I walked in and saw the signs immediately. Papers scattered, his coffee untouched. A man unraveling behind a polished desk. He didn't ask me to sit. "We lost Haldren Metal this morning," he said flatly. "They pulled their Q3 orders and said they'll be reassessing partnerships before year-end." I nodded slowly. "I assume they copied you on the email?" he added. "They did." Alan rubbed the bridge of his nose. "They mentioned transition issues, sloppy communication, incomplete delivery schedules." "They're not wrong." Silence. Then, "Samantha, I think we were hasty." My eyebrows lifted. "I mean, maybe we didn't think the leadership moved through. Lisa is... she's talented, but maybe not ready." I said nothing. "I've spoken to corporate," he continued. "There might be an opportunity to bring you back into a leadership role. Director level. You'd be paired with Lisa, but you'd have final say on all operations decisions." I almost laughed. The same job I'd been denied. now being offered with conditions. I appreciate that, I said evenly, but I already have an offer. Alan's face went still. What? I've accepted a position elsewhere. Same title, better pay, complete control, and I don't have to share a desk with someone who just learned how to read a freight report. He didn't blink, just stared like he was trying to will time backward. You haven't even finished your 2 weeks? He said. No, I replied, but I don't owe you loyalty after what you did. He walked around the desk, arms crossed. Do you know what this looks like? Jumping ship, taking clients. That's borderline unethical. My jaw tightened. You're the one who treated me like a placeholder, I said. Clients follow people they trust. I never signed a non-compete. And if you're worried about ethics, maybe start with how Lisa was promoted. Alan stepped back, color rising in his cheeks. You can't do this. I already have. He pointed at me. You don't get to just take what we built. I stared at him, calm. You didn't build it, Alan. I did, and I'm just taking myself. That afternoon, Lisa knocked on my door. Her expression was somewhere between panic and guilt. Copper Splice just sent another complaint, she said. Something about shipping schedules again. I'm trying to fix it, but it's... She stopped herself. It's harder than I thought. I offered her a chair. What do you need help with? She hesitated. Everything. I helped her rewrite the email response, walked her through the vendor's expectations, and reorganized the spreadsheet she had been using. She watched, clearly overwhelmed, but still trying to keep up. After a while, she sighed. You must hate me. I looked at her for a long moment. I don't, I said. I hate that you were put in a role you weren't prepared for. I hate that I wasn't seen for the work I did. But this mess? That's not just yours. Lisa blinked, like no one had ever separated her from Alan before. She stood to leave, but paused in the doorway. Are you really leaving? Yes. And the clients? They'll go where the work gets done right. She nodded. I hope I can earn it. The respect I gave her a small smile. Then start by listening to the people who built what you inherited. That evening, I got a text from Tom at Westbrook Machinery. Heard you're heading to Argon Works. Call me tomorrow. We're interested in talking. Another message arrived 30 minutes later. Janet from Copper Splice. New contact at Eastbridge is lost. If you're going independent, we want in. I looked at both texts and realized something profound. I wasn't just walking away from a job. I was stepping into something I had quietly built all along. A network, a reputation, a system of trust. I spent my final Friday at Eastbridge finishing what most people wouldn't have bothered with. Vendor manuals, escalation protocols, client preference sheets. Every last detail I'd carried in my head, I documented neatly and stored in a folder labeled Transition for Lisa. Not for Alan, not for the company, but for the people who'd end up dealing with the fallout. The office was quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't calm, just uncertain. The energy had changed. Conversations were shorter. Eyes didn't linger. Even the receptionist gave me a longer than usual look when I walked past with a box under my arm. By 4 p.m., I had packed the last of my things. A framed picture of Olivia from her 6th grade science fair, 2 notepads filled with diagrams and vendor sketches, and a chipped coffee mug I never let anyone else use. I dropped my security badge at HR, signed a single exit form, and then, just as I was about to leave, Alan called me back into his office. Just 5 minutes, he said, his voice tight. I walked in. Lisa was already there, eyes wide like she'd been ambushed. Alan stood by the window, arms crossed, shoulders stiff. We need to talk, he began. About the clients. I said nothing. We're getting calls, he continued. Emails, concerns about transition, delays, questions about your future plans. It's creating instability. That tends to happen, I said calmly. When you remove the person holding the threads together. Alan exhaled sharply. This isn't sustainable. We've had 2 major contracts placed on review and another pending cancellation. Lisa looked between us nervously. He turned back to me. Samantha, if this continues, Eastbridge could lose nearly 40% of its regional revenue. That's not my concern anymore, I said flatly. You made it clear I wasn't essential. Alan moved closer, lowering his voice. You've made your point. We underestimated you. You proved it. But if you think I'll sit back and let you take our clients... They're not your clients, I cut in. They're relationships, built on trust. And when you broke yours, they started looking elsewhere. Are you poaching them? They came to me. Alan's eyes narrowed. And what do you expect? That you'll just waltz into a new company, take everything with you, and we'll do nothing? I leaned forward slightly. You can try to stop people from leaving, Alan. But if they're already halfway out the door, it's not theft. It's consequence. That night, I had dinner with Olivia. We sat at our favorite Thai place, same booth near the window, sharing a plate of crispy duck and rice noodles. She noticed the quiet on my face. Was it a weird day? I nodded. The kind of day that feels like a full circle. I'm proud of you, she said between bites. You could have burned it all down, but you didn't. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is showing them what they lost, without ever raising your voice. She grinned. So what now? I leaned back. Now? I build something that no one can take from me. By the following week, the news had broken inside industry circles. Samantha Nolan was officially joining Argonne Works as Director of Regional Operations. The phone didn't stop buzzing. Clients, former coworkers, even a few competitors reached out. You free to meet next week? Would love to explore a move, if you're building a team. Heard what happened at Eastbridge. About time someone got smart and left. Miguel, my new boss, scheduled our onboarding in Austin. He flew me in personally. You were right, he said as we sat in the conference room. They weren't just buying product, they were buying you. I nodded. And now they'll buy from me again. Just somewhere better. Back at Eastbridge, I heard the unraveling continued. Haldren Metal officially pulled their Q3 deal. Copper Splice initiated review of their year-long agreement. Westbrook refused to speak with anyone but me. And Lisa? She had reportedly broken down in a meeting, overwhelmed by backlogged communications and mounting pressure. By mid-month, Alan had scheduled an emergency trip to corporate. Word was the board wasn't just upset. They were furious. He made one last attempt to save face. An email hit my inbox from his personal account. Samantha, I'd like to request a private call. No hostility. Just an opportunity to discuss options. I stared at it for a long time, then hit archive. People think loyalty is staying silent while you're passed over, but true loyalty starts with yourself, with knowing your value, and walking away the moment someone else stops seeing it. Eastbridge thought they could replace me in 4 months. They forgot I'd spent 8 years becoming irreplaceable. It had been 5 weeks since I left Eastbridge. 5 quiet, productive, deeply satisfying weeks. My office at Argonne Works was still sparse. Just a few personal photos, my laptop, and a whiteboard covered in planning notes. But it felt like mine. No one had handed me anything here. There were no favors, no shortcuts. Just recognition earned the old-fashioned way. By showing up, doing the work, and delivering results. By now, 4 of my former clients had officially moved their accounts to us. Not with dramatic emails or public declarations, just subtle paperwork, polite messages, and new purchase orders. Each one had said the same thing in their own way. We don't want to risk our supply chain with someone who's still learning what you already know. I never promised them perfection, just consistency. And in our industry, that's worth more than gold. One morning, while reviewing a new logistics contract, Miguel knocked on my door. You might want to see this, he said, holding a printed newsletter. I took the paper, The headline read, Eastbridge Tech announces sudden leadership restructuring amid client departures. Alan had resigned, officially to pursue other opportunities, but everyone knew what that meant. A polite way of saying, we've lost too much to keep you in place. Lisa, the article said, had been reassigned to a junior strategy analyst position under a mentor outside the operations team. It wasn't phrased as a demotion, but that's exactly what it was. They're bleeding, Miguel said, and they're not hiding it anymore. I set the paper down, feeling not triumphant, not smug, just settled. Let's not chase their mistakes, I said. Let's focus on what we're building. Miguel smiled. That's why we brought you in. 2 days later, I got a LinkedIn message I didn't expect. Lisa. Hi, Samantha. I know it's probably strange to hear from me. I just wanted to say thank you for everything you left behind. Your documentation, your guides. I've been using them every day. I didn't realize how much went into what you did. Not until I had to try doing it myself. I'm sorry for how everything unfolded. I was promoted because of who I knew, not what I knew. And I paid for that mistake. I'm learning now, the right way. I hope someday I'll earn the kind of trust people gave you. I really do. I sat with her message for a while before responding. Hi, Lisa. That role should never have been dropped on your shoulders the way it was. You didn't ask for it, but you stepped into it and you tried. That matters. Keep learning. Be better than the people who set you up to fail. And next time you're offered a title you haven't earned, ask why. Then ask who it should have gone to. You'll go far if you remember that. She replied with a simple, I will. Weeks turned to months. Argonne Works grew. My team expanded. I hired 2 former colleagues from Eastbridge, people who'd also felt invisible under Alan's leadership. Together, we rebuilt. Better systems, stronger processes. A culture rooted in respect, not hierarchy. One afternoon, my daughter Olivia stopped by the office. She was shadowing me for a school project on leadership. After a few hours of watching meetings, calls, and my whiteboard scrawls, she asked, Mom, how do you know who to trust? I thought for a second. You watch who shows up when there's no spotlight, who follows through when no one's clapping. That's who you build with. She nodded thoughtfully, then smiled. And you? You're the boss now, right? I laughed. Technically. But the real kind. The kind people want to work with. That one stayed with me for days. One evening, I sat outside on the back porch, laptop closed, wine in hand. The wind rustled the trees and the world felt quiet again. Not because life was easy now, but because the noise had changed. For 8 years, I'd chased approval. Promotions, recognition that always seemed just out of reach. And when I finally walked away, I realized I didn't need them to give me value. I already had it. Alan's biggest mistake wasn't promoting his niece. It was assuming I'd stay anyway. That I needed him more than he needed me. He never understood that when a person with experience, integrity, and relationships leaves, they take more than their box of desk supplies. They take trust. And trust doesn't stay behind for the next person in line.